One of the things I've noticed people kept commenting on my recent reviews of so-called flagship killer smartphones is that my expectations shouldn't be so high because the phones themselves were cheap. Now those people are mistaken, of course, because insofar as I had complaints about the devices, it was because they fell short of their published specification, which has nothing to do with price. I expect truthful specifications at any price point. Anyway, I thought it might be interesting to dig deeper into the budget smartphone market. So I set myself a challenge to find, buy and test the cheapest decent smartphone. Now, we actually can go really cheap. There are some Android phones out there that are almost pocket money prices, but some of those come with really low spec and very old versions of Android. However, we obviously can't have everything, so I decided on 3 essential criteria. I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by essential later in the video. I decided I want a phone with a 720p screen, Android 7 and a fingerprint sensor. I could have set different criteria, maybe you'd choose a different set, but for me these sort of felt like the minimal features for what I think could be called a modern smartphone. So I began my search, and even though I knew there were a lot of offerings out there, it still surprised me how much variety there is when I actually saw it. Eventually I found it. A phone with a 720p screen, a fingerprint scanner and Android 7.0. The Elephone A8, which after further searching I found on pre-sale for about £40. That's about $50 US. That's a bit of a bargain. So I've ordered one. It looks pretty good for the money. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if it actually lives up to the marketing images and descriptions. Time will tell. There is always a compromise when price is limited, and so although this phone has the things I decided I needed most, it's short in some others. It's only 3G, the cameras are fairly low resolution, and it looks as though it may be missing some sensors like GPS and magnetometer. So that's on order. Coming up sometime in October. Watch this space. But meanwhile, what do you think? Did I choose the right features? If you were searching for a super budget phone, what features would you still expect? And on which features might you be prepared to compromise? Can you find a cheaper phone than this that meets all of my requirements? Anyway, I said I would explain what I mean by essential, so let's look at that. When you're in the market for anything and there are choices, it's a good idea to write a shopping list of the features or attributes you know are available and start thinking about the ones you really care about. Then it's a good idea to classify them based on their importance to you. This is commonly done using a 3-category system. The first category, essential features. These are the things that you absolutely require and upon which you will not compromise. If one of the available options falls short of one of these features, it's automatically out of the running, no arguments. Second, desirable features. These are the things you would really like but aren't complete deal breakers. The reasons for listing them is that if you find several choices that meet all of your essential criteria, you can start scoring them on how many of the desirable features they meet, and this might influence your final choice. Thirdly, nice to have. In some ways this is a bit of a pointless category. It's like desirable light, but it can sometimes be useful just to get an idea of these. In some cases they will add to your overall perception of value, or they can be the sorts of things that add unexpected value to a product. For example, maybe they're features you don't currently intend to use at all, but could become useful later. Or maybe they're features that enhance the longevity of the product or its resale value. Now, when you set your essential criteria, it's possible to include superlatives that may disqualify the other 2 categories. For example, I set 3 technical feature criteria: screen resolution, Android version and fingerprint capability. But I also set the superlative criterion cheapest. If I really meant that as an essential criterion, then I will only start to compare on desirable features if there are 2 or more options at the bottom end of the price scale that meet all of my essential technical requirements. It's also possible to set essential criteria that create a conflict or otherwise make choice impossible. For example, if I had decided to set smallest phone and cheapest phone as essential criteria, and it turns out that the smallest phones are more expensive than the cheapest phones, what am I to do? There are no degrees of essential, so that choice may be impossible when it's defined by 2 or more superlative criteria. So it's important to make sure that you haven't created an impossible search. I didn't invent this methodology, but I am a fan of it. When it comes to comparing a large range of options, each of which has a different assortment of attributes, it really can save a lot of wasted time and legwork if you have settled some of your choice boundaries in advance. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.